The idea of what we should be testing is very hotly debated because there's a certain objectivity that we think we have once we standardize things and we give it the same test to everyone. And there is some truth to that, that the more you standardize a test, the more you kind of give everyone the same opportunity to perform on that test. So there is some argument to be made towards standardization. But we don't have standardized minds. I mean, no one has a standardized mind. There's no such thing as an average mind. So every one of us, every unique individual, is a dynamic system of not just cognitive processes, but motivational processes, dreams, desires. I formulated a theory, called it the theory of personal intelligence, because I argued I wanted to shift our focus of analysis from taking one aspect that we are saying this is the measure of intelligence, whether it's a standardized test or whether it's an IQ test. We say, well, we've decided as a society, that's our measure of intelligence. And then we compare everyone to each other on that one metric. I wanted to move it to a personal level and recognize that, well, within a person, every single one of us has a combination of traits, and we can compensate for lower levels of one trait with higher levels of another trait. For instance, we can compensate with lower levels of IQ with grit, or with perseverance. So we're capable of mixing and matching our own unique profile of characteristics in such really fascinating, exciting ways that make us who we are. That's what makes us a whole person. So when it comes to testing, I'm not necessarily against testing. I'm not necessarily against using standardized tests as a way of measuring learning outcomes, but as a way of measuring human potential, I'm not down with that. A really great report came out recently called Talent on the Sidelines, which found very clearly that our ethnic minority students, our ethnic and racial minority students are not being identified in gifted talented programs, period. And we need to call this out. We need to make this serious. There's some wonderful researchers who are trying to correct this, like Joy Lawson Davis, for instance, trying to figure out what is going on there, what we can do. When you have very poverty-stricken environments, for instance, it's not as easy to get the opportunities to display your brilliance. It's not as easy to learn when people all around you are dying, when you are not being fed. It's very hard to show your intellectual brilliance. It is a fact that there's a huge underrepresentation of ethnic and racial minority students in gifted and talented education, and I do not believe that ethnic and racial minority students are less gifted than, who wants to make that argument? It is not the reality of the matter. And what you find, there's some really neat programs. For instance, this one program called Project Bright, where they taught gifted behaviors to every student. So they assumed, well, everyone in this school system was going to learn something from behaviors that gifted students tend to have. They kind of tried to distill, how do gifted students think, and can we teach this? And they taught it to every student in the school, and they found after teaching it, like 25% or so more ethnic and racial minority students all of a sudden qualified for gifted education. And once you gave them a chance to learn these behaviors and traits. So I think we need to be very wary about treating these labels as though they're an essence of a person. Essentialism. A gifted. There's a key difference to me between saying that child is gifted and that child was labeled as gifted. To me, the former is an essentialism argument. You're saying that's the essence of that person. And the other one is you're saying, well, we recognize something in that person that we are giving them a label so we can give them greater resources. But it's very important that we don't fall prey to the idea that because someone was labeled as gifted, then therefore that is the essence of that person, and it doesn't change. And therefore those who don't have that label, the essence of their label is that they're ungifted. We have to be very aware about falling into that trap if we want to maximize human potential.